Hello and welcome back to the AL Central Rundown. With me today is a very happy Ty, Sam, Lee, and Dan. This is actually kind of a busy week. I think we said last week that it was not, there's going to be like one, we said major signing, and I guess you could count one of these as one major signing, and the other two are decent roster moves. But this is a surprisingly busy week. So what we did in our chat is we wanted to talk about a baseball movie, which was Field of Dreams. So we're going to talk about Field of Dreams at the end of the news. But about an hour before we started recording, Jeff Passan, as he typically does, dropped a tweet saying that the White Sox have signed probably the biggest free agent signing in the division this year. Uh, no, I'm very sorry. I watched one Jolly Olive video on this guy, and it was 45 minutes ago. So I'm gonna butcher this guy's name. It's Manuka Murakami. I'm much more confident on the Murakami. I will probably learn to hate this man as the season starts. But Ty, how's it feel? 2 years, 34 million, 26 years old, extreme slugging. They say for third baseman, but we'll see.
So how about like that wild card? So here's the thing. So my very quick reaction to this is, what are we doing? Like, is this like we're pushing some of our chips in for where we are in the rebuild, if you will, in terms of kids coming up, kid doing well. It's very interesting to see this signing. It's awesome to see this signing, but I'm very interested in how this kind of fits in the overall the plot, if you will.
Yeah, I think is where it is. I think this is one of those rare deals where it works for both sides very well. It's not like Murakami is 26 years old. He has been a superstar in Japan, but he certainly has some red flags. So just to go over some of his uh, some of his profile, the positives: huge power. 2022, he had 1,000 OPS plus. He hit 50 plus homers. He had and a huge walk percentage. He has had the second highest walk rate in Japan over the last 3 years. He has been very durable, except for last year where he played 69 games, but I don't think it was like a serious injury of note. What should also translate is now with Japan they really can't give you the average bat speed, but they can give you the max back speed. It would have been above average. I think it would have been like top 10 in the league or something like that if you just go with his max bat speed. And then his max exit velo, which was 116 last year, would have been in that same range, which I believe would have beat out Pete Alonso. Now that's just raw ability, and he hit the sweet spot on a ball and smoked it. I couldn't even tell you if that was a home run or a liner to third base, but he can hit the ball hard. The concerns are pretty big. He has the highest strikeout percentage in Japan over the last 3 years. They say he has trouble with velocity, but like I just said, the video with Jolly Olive, he did say it's not a large enough sample size for him personally to hold that against him. But it certainly doesn't sound good when Japan doesn't have a lot of guys that throw over, let's say 95, 96. If he has trouble with velocity, that's only going to get much worse. Not only in MLB, but past the fifth inning, almost everyone throws over 95, which is what they typically consider to be high velocity. And then finally, he's in spirit a third baseman in that he could probably locate it on the diamond, but he probably shouldn't play there. He might not even be a good first baseman, so you might be looking at a DH. So all of that accumulates into a 2 year, $34 million contract. I like it. There's certainly risk, but I don't know for with the type of bat he can bring for only 17 million for someone who was about to enter his prime. It's really hard to say this is a bad deal. So I don't know what the rest of the panel thinks of him.
Oh
It's an
yeah,
odd prove it deal.
Yeah,
You know what? Like, you don't typically see the international signing prove it deal. And I think one of the things that we alluded to was, yeah, he can hit the ball really hard. But in order to hit the ball really hard, you got to hit the ball in the first place. And that is something I tried to find these stats. I saw this somewhere. I don't know if this was posted in our Discord or not, but I saw that he had not he had the 116 max exit velocity. He also had like a 74% hit rate of hitting the ball, um, which was in line with some guys who weren't very good and oddly was similar to that of Nick Kurtz last year. So there's a potential that he could be really good. It's just a question of putting it all together in the big leagues. So I definitely think this is not something I was expecting to see, but um, and it's also worth mentioning 2 years, $34 million. Probably almost every team in the league could have made this deal,
I agree.
and they didn't. So that tells you something. But I do look forward to seeing him in Chicago next year because I think it's a great signing.
apparently other teams offered him longer contracts for less per year, but he wanted to go and bet on himself and try and get like a big deal after 2 years. This 2 years is basically prove you hit in the MLB, and then he can get that 200 million he was projected to get a few months ago.
I mean, it does. I and even going into those prove you can hit for 2 years, he's going to be in his age 28 season when he hits free agency. Like that is prime, the younger side of free agency that you're going to get just an average. So I think what the 2 years really does for him is if he gets injured this year, he at least can still say he has $17 million next year, and it can still he can kind of redeem some of that value. I think with him, you're gonna know by the end of April what you have, unfortunately. Like I don't know how their willingness to put him back to AAA. I don't know his willingness to maybe he wants to play the field. Like I think we're going to figure that out, but if he goes into April and he's hitting like 150 with a really low slugging percentage, his walk rate I think is really the skill that is going to carry him because he does not swing at pitches outside the zone. I think him and Seiya Suzuki, who was signed with the Cubs, that did translate over for Suzuki quite a bit. I think with the issue with Murakami, if pitchers can just blow the ball past him, it's not going to matter if he swings outside the zone or not. They're just going to challenge him all the time.
That or he's going to have to cheat on the fastball, and now we are chasing. Like
Right.
that's the other thing. Now he's out in front for the fastball. Now you're just going to kill him with change ups or sliders out of the zone. I I can't wait to see this guy face Cade Smith. I'll tell you that right now. Um, my perspective on this is I could definitely see there's some red flags here. We talk about he hits the ball hard. Gabriel Arias hits the ball hard. He also strikes out 35% of the time, but plays the field well.
In in the Jolly
So
Olive video, Arias was one of his comparisons
that's fascinating.
as an
I have
outcome.
to imagine, Arias plays a high level shortstop where Murakami is maybe a first baseman, maybe. I will say, and as I dump on him in saying that, I will also ask though, Ty. I know you had, mentioned a couple guys. Pete Alonso was your kind of pie in the sky hope for first base, but also we talked about like Ryan O'Hearn and guys of kind of that ilk. How does this compare? Like, are you happier to have kind of the mystery box of Murakami compared to like a Ryan O'Hearn, who's probably more of a known entity, or would you kind of feel safer if they had gone with somebody that had played in the majors?
So that I think that's a great question, Dan. So I think from my perspective, it makes more sense long term for us to put more money into somebody we know is going to be good. When you look at AAV, it's $17 million a year. It's higher than Benintendi. Lower than Luis Robert, who we don't know if going to be with us through the end of the year. It just seems odd, but with all that said, when you look at our first and third base options, we have Vargas right now, but other than that, we have three catchers. So I think the other two infield positions are set. So it's just figuring out where do we use him. And
Because that's
the other thing that really I want to make sure that I communicate here is when you look at what we did with Colson Montgomery this year, where we sent him to Arizona and we were able to coach him back into what he could be. I think there's a high potential that they bought in on him to try to fix those little I'm not saying he's gonna double his value, but I think that they're gonna try as hard as they can to make the weaknesses a little bit less red flaggy.
Yeah.
that makes sense.
I think it also what's also interesting is he's left-handed. He has reverse splits. And he has reverse splits in a way that you wouldn't expect. So it's certainly like an approach thing rather than a skill thing is how I'm reading it. So versus left-handed pitchers, he has a 930 OPS, but he has a higher contact rate versus left-handed pitching. Which seems weird because like you're just imagining a wipeout slider against every lefty versus lefty matchup that you've ever seen. Against righties, his OPS drops by 100 points. It's still 846. It's still good, but he has a higher walk percentage. So he's more patient against right-handed hitters. He's more aggressive versus left-handed hitters. And I kind of wonder if he knows like lefty, like he will struggle against off speed against lefties. So the first pitch he sees in the zone, he's just going to take a hack at. But I don't know, Dan. I interrupted you. I'm sorry. So what were
No,
you?
it's okay. That could also be that's very interesting. That could also just be how pitchers strategize
Sure.
against him.
Mm-hmm.
Lefties may be more comfortable kind of uh, pitching him in the zone for whatever reason, maybe because they perceive that he's a weaker hitter against them. No, that's what I was asking about O'Hearn and what have you. That's kind of that's how I'm framing this. Is the White Sox decided we don't really want any of those guys. We'd rather have this guy play first base. And so maybe that's right, maybe that's not. I also agree with Eric. We're going to find out pretty quickly, I think, into the season, um, exactly how good or bad of a signing this could be. And I also agree that his batting eye could kind of keep his floor high too. So um, I forget who the Red Sox signed a couple years ago. I forget the guy's name from Japan, but I feel like he's kind of underwhelmed, and I'm a little concerned that this could be similar. I apologize, I'm blanking, but guy that didn't really have a position, left-handed hitter, expected to do big things, and it just kind of hasn't worked out. We'll see.
Well, I think that's the other key to keep in mind here is with the White Sox and where we are right now. I think he'd have a longer rope here than he would most places.
Yes.
So keep that in mind. He's going to get at bats. He's going to get time if he wants to do first or third. He's going to get those chances and those innings in the field. It's just how high are you going to make your value? I'm not going to sit here and say that he's going to after this 2-year contract he's going to re-sign with us for 10. That's not realistic. But what he
And
can do
I
is
just thought
maximize
of
his
this.
value right now.
Sorry to jump on you, Ty. This could be the White Sox trying to make inroads in Japan too. If they can take Murakami and have him have a couple successful years in their organization, now suddenly, I mean, the Dodgers kind of own that real estate, but you can start being like, hey, we did a great job turning this guy. He wasn't a very good third baseman. He's gotten better at it. He's hit really well for us. Come here. Like, you don't all have to go to the Dodgers.
Can I share my screen a little bit? Because I want to talk about his power and just the home runs. Because just in looking at some of the other stats. So I've mentioned before about how NPBs right now is in a huge dead ball era. Okay, so Murakami set the record for home runs in 2022 with 56. This is the record that it had held since 1964. And he broke that record at like 22. Okay, so just for the record, so think about how many home runs were hit by players in the MLB this year, right? Now, I'll show you. So the SoftBank Hawks this year, they were the NPB champions. If you look, pretty good team. Their home run leader had 23 home runs. OPS, the highest OPS you'll see in a qualified player, the guy with 500 plate appearances, is 760. This is not a league where people hit a ton of home runs, right? I can go on individual teams, and for individual stats, the batting leaders isn't the same as home run hitters, right? But because it's looking at batting average. But if you look, like the top home run hitter hit 40 home runs last season in the NPB. You'll see 17, 17, 23, 15. This is not a league where people hit with a lot of power. And just look, you look at the Ham Fighters. They had the most home runs in the Pacific League. 32 home runs for their home run leader. Compare that to how many guys hit 30 home runs in the MLB this year, right?
Friendlius. Yeah. Sorry, I got excited.
Yeah, Frendel, I saw that too.
My old buddy Frendel.
I think so. So I think Murakami was also 5th last year, or was either 5th or top 10 in the MPB with home runs, and he played half of the season.
Yeah, he played 56 games, and he still had 20 home runs. So yes, there's all these concerns I'm concerned about his strikeouts and not being able to hit velocity. But his home run power is such a level up compared to the norm in the league he's been playing in. It's very interesting to see what he'll do in the MLB. I guess. I don't know if this had a point. I had a point. But I just wanted to show those stats. Right. Because I think just to contextualize when we're saying how many home runs and how much power this guy has. I apologize if that was pointless.
Nope, that's completely fine. That was a name that I kind of thought of is why would they take a unproven commodity versus Ryan O'Hearn or whoever? The last time they signed an international free first baseman, he won an MVP in his rookie year. So Jose Abreu did all right. So I don't think, if he does that, the White Sox are onto something. But he pushes the ceiling where his floor. He's going to go back to Japan in 2 years, but
alternatively.
Well, you look at previous signings. The last Japanese player we had was Aguchi, so he didn't have a short stint with us by any means. So
yeah, good
the White
signing.
Sox were the Cuba team for a while, weren't they? They were getting a lot of guys from Cuba, and
Abreu everyone got hurt.
A lot of those guys didn't work out.
Going in a different direction.
I think Abreu was the outlier as a productive player in that team, so let's hope it doesn't. It works out better. Not to scare anyone off, but does anyone remember when the Twins signed Byung-Hyun Park, slugging first baseman out of Korea? He lasted 2 years, and most of that was in AAA with the Twins. He very similar profile, massive power, came in, couldn't hit the ball. And then get an 85 OPS plus, and then he went back to the KBO, and he resumed just being a stellar player there. So we'll see. Good, exciting signing.
Yeah.
We'll see how well he does. Who do the White Sox open up against, Ty? Do you know?
I don't have it off the top of my head.
Nope, that's right. I put you on the spot. So it'll be a fun spring training. The first time he gets a hold of a single A pitcher and he just takes it 600 feet deep. That will be fun. One little note that I did dislike that's nice. I'm going to use this phrase twice in this episode, but
Brewers.
What I thought was
Brewers, yeah.
a nice little piece of business was the posting fee for Japan. Is if he would have signed over $50 million, they would have basically had to owe extra tax dollars. So by signing him for under $50 million, they were able to get the lowest possible posting fee, which was $5 million, which I thought was interesting because a third year would have brought him to $51 million, and they would have, brought him. So not. I think it connects quite a few dots on limits the White Sox cost. He still gets to have he's going to make more money in these 2 years than I think he's probably made in Japan. I know Japan is like their salaries have certainly increased in the last couple of years, but it's not 17 million a year. I don't think quite yet.
And the other thing is what really makes me wonder with this signing is the goal to flip him for more prospects. That is my question. That I'd love to see what happens over the next year or two.
Is he going to be on the team for 2 years or 1.5?
I think if he does get traded during this contract, they will never sign a Japanese player again. I think Japan will take a personal affront to that and make a point to not sign with him. But who knows? Any final thoughts on Murakami?
No. I want to just shout out the Reddit thread from about 14 hours ago that was like, oh, Murakami's agent is apparently talking with the White Sox. And everyone went, yeah, as if.
Right.
12 hours later.
Okay. Do you want to talk about Tristan Peters' tie? It's marginal relief depth that looked like they traded he was traded for a player to be named later earlier this week.
Yeah, nothing huge on my end.
Okay, so we're just going to move on because the Twins, a couple weeks ago, some of us had a big dream. And when we were predicting our free agents, I said, if they shoot for the moon, the Twins can sign Josh Bell. And sometimes when you dream big, your team will sign a mediocre first baseman past their prime. Because the Twins this week have signed Josh Bell to a 1-year, basically $7 million salary.
Hey, Eric, if you predict it, he will come.
That's right. I was about to say, I like all of the crossover references here. So Josh Bell, he's been around for a minute. He's only 33, which kind of surprised me because it seems like, well, he's been in the majors for 10 years when he came up with Pittsburgh in 2023. He has 30 home run power. He's a switch hitting first baseman. What's interesting about him is for as much power as he has, he does not strike out an awful lot. I think he has a below average strikeout rate, and last year with the Nationals, he had 22 home runs. A lot of that was with DH. They basically told him near the end of the season, like, to stop playing first base because he has never been a good defensive first baseman. Not much to really hate on this. Is there risk? Yes. But it's a $7 million deal. And why I kind of put an asterisk when I said it's a $7 million, it's actually his actual salary for 2025 is $5.5 million, but there's a $1.5 million buyout on a mutual option at the end of the season. What makes that really important is if he gets traded, the team he is on at the end of the year would have to buy the buyout. So really what the Twins would be on the hook for would be his pre-trade deadline salary, which is about $4 million. Also making $4 million on this roster is Trevor Larnach, who I don't think didn't really have a spot before on this team, certainly doesn't have a spot on this team after. You could almost view Josh Bell, who at least doesn't play a good first base, as taking Larnach's spot. I think Larnach will be traded by either a prospect for a pure salary dump, or he will be traded for like a moderate reliever, like someone's sixth or fifth guy in the bullpen type. We'll see what happens. But with all that said, I just said this about the Murakami deal. That's not a bad little piece of business, as you can basically sign Josh Bell, who is a much better hitter historically through his career. I believe the screen is showing he's a 114 OPS plus career guy. They desperately needed it. Cody Clemens, and I've said this ad nauseum, Cody Clemens has been the projected first baseman starter for the Twins this year. There is not a team in the world, in America, I guess, that thinks Cody Clemens should be a starting caliber first baseman. Cody Clemens had a really good year last year, but he shouldn't be starting for anyone and expect that team to be good. So to get Josh Bell, who by the way has been traded 4 of the last 5 trade deadlines, seems like a good fit. Like it's very hard to see this really going negative. If he doesn't perform well, they're going to ship him off probably for peanuts, but they're not going to get that much for him anyway. But the upside is they just signed a 33-year-old who didn't have a resurgence, but he certainly had like a bounce back year. And let me just pull up his Savant page. So with the Nationals, he with the Nationals, they actually tweaked with his swing, and they actually improved his hard hit rate, which went up 7% from 2024 to 2025. His K rate went down, and his walk rate went up. His walk rate went back basically to his career average, so I'm not making too much out of that. But if you're asking for 3 really good indicators of a player figuring it out, it's harder hit balls, fewer swings and misses, and more patience. That's a really good combination. Just to kind of scroll up on where his spray chart is and where his projection, they got a pretty good hitter for essentially $5.5 million.
So Eric, riddle me this: Is
Yes.
there any way, shape, or form? Let's say the Twins are in it for the wild card this year, out of some reason. Do you keep him, or is
No.
he going somewhere no matter what?
If they're still around 500 at the trade deadline, they will keep him. I think they will be buyers.
Okay.
I don't think that's the likely scenario. If you're asking me if he's on if the Twins are making the mutual option decision, there have been 6 mutual options picked up, I think, in the history of mutual options, which now goes back like 30 years. So this is a 1-year deal. Like it's 1 year, $7 million. It gives the Twins some payroll flexibility if it does go south again. It also gives Josh Bell $1 million check in
job.
September. So like everyone kind of wins there. What I did think is interesting is I'm showing his Josh Bell Savant page here. You'll notice his fielding, not great. The Twins have put a lot of emphasis on first base defense over the last 2 years. They have the back-to-back Gold Glove winners at first base.
So yes, is Josh Bell gonna get a Gold Glove this year?
Well, that's what I'm
No.
wondering. There's 2 scenarios. The sales pitch to Josh was like, we've had back-to-back Gold Glove winners. Like, we might have, the secret sauce to making a good defensive first baseman, which he has never been. Or they said, we're going to give you $7 million. And because that deal is cheap enough, and what the reason I brought up Larnach before is there is some speculation that they might put Bell at first base, and they're still in the Rhys Hoskins, Ryan O'Hearn market. So now you're adding 2 good bats. Now you also get rid of the DH. What the Guardians like to do, and what every team likes to do, is they really want to filter that in and out. I would argue if you can get Josh Bell, trade Trevor Larnach, and that's basically a flat salary for what you're on the hook for, and then also get like a Ryan O'Hearn who is a good defensive first baseman, or Hoskins isn't a good defensive first baseman, but the offense makes up for it. Or even like screw it, bring back Luis Ariz. Like you could also be in the category to wait to see where the market comes and then maybe pounce. And that's assuming that they don't, sign extra relievers. I know the Guardians just signed Sean Armstrong. The Twins were in that market up until, I guess, the Guardians signed him. So that at least means that they're playing in the $5.5 million reliever market, which is higher than I thought they would be at. So that was a really long answer for you, Ty, but there it is.
So we have a signing of a probably first baseman who isn't a good fielder, who hits the ball really hard and strikes out a lot. And we have a signing of probably a first baseman who isn't a good fielder, who hits the ball really hard and doesn't strike out a lot.
Yep.
This is a loaded question, but who do we think between Murakami and Josh Bell will have better OPS plus WRC plus still in your holistic metric that you want to use in 2025?
You broke up there, so I'm going to kind of rephrase your question. I think you're asking who would you rather have, Josh Bell or Murakami?
Who do you think will have the better OPS plus or WRC plus in
How
2020?
dare you, Dan? How dare you, man?
I
thought we were cool.
I think
this is an
You think
open-ended
Josh
question.
Bell is going to do better than Murakami? Are you kidding me?
Well, here's the thing. Murakami is either going to be 125 OPS plus above or nothing.
Well, let's say this. If Josh Bell has a better year than Murakami, then it is an abject failure of a signing.
Or Josh Bell had a
really
great
nice
year.
season.
I mean,
Or Josh Bell had a great
we
year.
could be average and Josh Bell
Right.
just goes off. I'm cool.
Josh Bell could have a great year. He had a 142 OPS plus year in 2019, so he could do it.
He was an all-star before, guys.
2019, that was a million years ago.
So what I will say, he
We
had
don't know what
a slow
Murakami
April.
is. I'm getting the vibe this is a stupid question. I don't think this is a stupid question.
I don't
We
think this
know
is a
what
stupid
Murakami
question at
is.
all.
No,
I
I don't
feel
think
like
it is. It's a
The
very
question
funny
really
question.
is, do you believe in Murakami? Because like Josh
believe-
Bell is
yeah.
like a steadfast 110 to 120 OPS guy his entire career.
Except
Murakami
for
is
when
a
he was in
complete,
Cleveland. But
is a complete outlier, or he's a complete
Unknown.
he's a wild card. He could be the best hitter in the White Sox lineup, or absolutely nothing.
He's essentially a prospect. We have no idea
Yes.
how he's going to play at this level.
I haven't heard an answer from anybody yet, except for I think Ty is going with Murakami. Other than that,
I'm going
I
with
I love
Murakami.
loot boxes, man. I'll take him all day.
I'm going with Murakami. I think the power will make up for any lack of batting average and just kind of balance it out.
I mean,
This is really a question for Eric.
Eric,
Would you rather have
Eric, do it.
Murakami or Bell at
Do it.
first base?
where the Twins are at right now, I would assign Murakami. If you're asking me strictly what 2025 will do, Josh Bell did make he had a slow April. The Nationals changed his swing, and he had like an 850 OPS the rest of the year. Like he made actual tweaks that actually saw measurable results. So the thinking is, if Josh Bell did figure something out last year, he could have another. He's hit 30 home runs. He's almost hit 40 home runs in the majors before. I would say Josh Bell, I think, is more likely to have a better season than Murakami. But if you're asking me if I have both of these deals in front of me, I want the ceiling with Murakami.
Makes sense.
Dan.
That was a good question, Dan.
This isn't a hot take show. It doesn't intend to be. If asked, I think Bell will have a better WRC plus than Murakami if I have to choose between the other. I think Eric's got the right idea. It's more of a spectrum, like what do you think is more likely kind of thing. But if it's just a binary, I'm gonna go with Bell.
How about this? I'll give you Murakami does have a better 2027 season. Which I know means nothing to Bell, but
That's interesting.
That's kind of where I was because like I said, we're gonna know in April if Murakami is anything. If
But
he
it
makes it to
takes him a while to
2027, it's
adjust
still in
to
the
that.
majors. He's
and that's a great point,
probably
Lee. Yes.
much better
Yeah.
than Bell.
He's got to adjust in
Agreed.
some way, shape, or form. Spring training is going to be very important. I'm curious if he shows up early to start working with our pitchers or talking to them. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
But at least you got your first baseman, Eric. I just want to call that out.
Who's
Now
he?
we have two people on our team that have got correct signings from our free agent predictions.
And that will be it.
I gotta. Okay, so I saw this news before I walked into my biostats final, and I laughed out loud. I'm like, no way he actually got this prediction right. I was greatly amused by this.
We've gotten a lot more predictions correct than I thought we would.
Two?
Yeah, a whole
Two.
And
We made
we've only
25
had 17,
predictions. Yeah,
17
you
or
got
18
to.
free agents signed. Like, there's still everybody's out there.
Wait,
I'm just
I
saying.
have 3 that are wrong, and
That's true.
everything else is up on the board. I think.
I think
We did
what's
take
impressive
Dan
is we
out.
got we didn't just pick 2 free agents to sign in the division. We actually picked the teams, which
Yeah.
Sam, I do agree. Like that is somewhat impressive, but I do like there's 25 guesses. We got 2 of them right. And we're like, hey, good job, everyone. We did it. Like,
Which one
Hey,
is more
you know-
impressive? 'Cause
you
I
know
feel
what?
like
A
picking
broken
Josh
clock.
Bell I feel like picking Josh Bell to sign with the Twins is more impressive than having Finnegan re-signing with the Tigers.
I would say the free agent signing would be.
Yeah.
I think that was.
They still count though.
Yeah, it's still. I was like, holy shit.
I just need.
What?
I also, I'm looking at my list. I had Max Kepler, who was at has anyone heard anything on Max Kepler? I mean, just go silent. I kind of and then my hope is Mike Tauchman just returns to the White Sox already, because that would be ideal. Because then I have 6 points. I feel pretty comfortable. If I had 2 correct predictions, I'm just gonna win it. But
I think all of mine are still in play, are they not?
I think all
they
of
are.
mine are as well.
Now, granted, the signing of Munateka makes the White Sox getting Ryan O'Hearn,
a little less likely.
might eliminate that one as a possibility, but still. But you know what they say? A broken clock is right twice a day. A blind squirrel finds a nut.
I haven't heard that one recently.
I've heard that one. I haven't heard that one in a long time. I think my mom breaks that one.
My dad used to like to say, sometimes the sun shines on a dog's ass.
Twice a day. Well,
other expressions meaning that high volume leads to some amount of success.
Well, these clocks found the blind squirrels twice a day, so we did it, guys. Congratulations. I'm just going to move on. I'm going to keep this brief. So, outside of signing Josh Bell, I have talked a lot about the ownership group and all of that. There is an actual, and I even complained a couple weeks ago that there were incoming owners that seemed to be delayed. They were really delaying the announcement. The timelines were not adding up, and we got some clarity with that in Minnesota. And I will say I am cautiously optimistic. So the Twins brought in 2 minority owners. One was for the Glick family in New York. One is a very small percentage of the Minnesota Wild owner. I think it was more like hey, I really like the Pohlad, or I really like the tour. I want to invest. Here's, $25 million so I can be a 2% owner or something like that. It's what it sounds. It's what he signs out. And then there is a billionaire from a venture capital company, whatever, lifetime Minnesota fan, lifetime Twins fan, went to college in Minnesota, blah, 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 blah. The real big news is that while the Pohlads still retain a majority share of the Twins, they switched Pohlads, which is now the 3rd Pohlad in 4 years. Not only did they switch it, they also, with Joe Pohlad, when he was running the Twins, he was just the day-to-day guy, and then they would have his uncle Jim be the, if there was an owner's meeting, Jim would go to that. Tom Pohlad, who is now the new controlling owner, is now doing both, which should probably signal something. But there is an article from The Athletic. I just want to go through a couple of quotes because I thought they were interesting. If at any point I am dragging these on too long, everyone tell me to shut up, and I will. But this is from Aaron Gleeman at The Athletic, who I cite all of the time. Apologies for that.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, weird, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go for the Pohlad still in charge. So I've just kind of highlighted a couple things. So details on the minority owners. He was asked questions, and I'm fully aware that the bar for success for me was very similar to when you surprise someone with an intervention. I just needed them to admit there is a problem, and I'm going to be much happier, because that's all he really gave. He just gave answers to questions rather than either not being open for questions at all, or dancing around them and giving corporate speak, which a majority of the Twins press conferences have been over the last 3 years. So I'm just kind of highlighted a couple of quotes. He's asking about on the new minority owners. he said, this is Tom Pollad said, quote, I would say we are, he's asking about like the percentage that was sold. I would say we're very happy with the amount aimed to achieve our primary objective, which is to put this organization onto better financial footing. With these proceeds, we're able to pay off a significant amount of the debt, which will allow us to reinvest with this team when the time is right. Well, that makes sense. That's not surprising. That's why you brought on minority owners, is because you've had a $500 million in debt. It seems like, and you will claim that has come from baseball operations really since COVID. And it sounds like a lot of that came when Joe Pollad took over the team 3 years ago. Okay, yes, you have your investment, you have your minority partners. When asked about the payroll, this is where I will say the quotes are not promising for Twins fans, but at least they're concrete. So he was asked specifically about the payroll. Should you invest? And his quote, which is not going well in Minnesota, was, I don't think in that landscape, what I see now is that we should put a significant investment into the team of an additional $50 to $60 million. But I don't think we are far off from that. I think with the hard work in front of us and getting fans and people to buy into, to believe, we are committed to a championship caliber investment in the team. And I will tell you, Rome wasn't built in the day. He was asked about, should they basically tear everything down? And he said, and he was asked, is it a mistake by not tearing everything down? He said, I worry about it. Half measures are not good, and you'll get to know me over time. I'm not a half measure guy. I'm a big or go home guy. But again, to your point, how do we thread the needle here? And what do we do what's in the best interest of the fan base? Every decision you've got to look at through a couple of lenses. What's in the short-term return and what you get in the long-term return. You try to make a good balance of long-term and short-term decisions to equal something great. And that's what we're trying to do here. I don't think this is going to be, as you said, a half measure. I don't think this is a half measure. That's a weird quote. You're basically admitting that this team is not worth investing into past, like, we'll say 2023 payroll levels. But you're also saying this isn't a half measure teardown. Those to me cannot exist together. Either you believe this team is worth investing in to the former payroll, which is now, he's not even saying like the cut down after 2023. He's saying it should be the 160 what it was when the Twins won the division. That they're not there yet, but basically saying next year I think we should be. When he talked about if like why fans should be given hope. Oh, I got to find this here. He said, we certainly think that we're within winning a division, a title this season, and I don't think we'll continue to look past moves that can make us help to accomplish that.
Does anyone think that the Twins are going to be anywhere but last in the division next year?
Fangraphs.
4th place.
But yeah. At the same time, if you're the owner of the team, you don't go out there and say, oh, well, we're not trying to win. Like, you gotta at least give the guys that.
But here's my question, Eric. Do the Twins believe that what the kids that were brought up in the second half, do we know what you have right now?
They have a good farm system. The kids that were brought up in the second half were not all that impressive. Luke Keeschel was impressive. He was coming back from injury. A lot, like, where the Twins just were an albatross was the bullpen, because they traded their best 5 relievers. But what they didn't do is they didn't bring up some of their young pitching depth just to see what they can do in the bullpen. They just found waiver wire claims and just decided to run with that for most of the season. Then you had like Pearson Ole and Travis Adams, who were pitching prospects who were like, I'm fine that they got the playing time. The team was going nowhere anyway. But those were really the only 2 young pitchers that got experience.
When you talk about proper investment, long-term, short-term, do you think part of the justification for not going and getting a bigger free agent is not fully Like we haven't doubled down and started to bring up our good prospects. We're going to wait and see what we have there and then start to reinvest.
That's exactly what he's saying.
Okay.
But that's also what this family has been promising for a while. And except for like 2 years ago when they did have, it was a $160 million payroll, which was the largest they've had in team history. It was still below league average payroll. But it was fine. Like, the Twins are not an above average market. Just spend spend the dollars relative to your market. I'm fine with that. But then they just yanked the rug at the worst possible time. Just to kind of go off of his when he's talking specifically about fans, this is where, again, I needed the alcoholic to admit he has a drinking problem. Because he said, quote, "We owe the fan base something. We love our veteran star players something. We owe our organization something. And that something is hope. And that I think we're trying to thread the needle. We took a hard look at things. It's undeniable we haven't won enough baseball games. The financial health of the club was put into jeopardy, and we've got a fan base here that lost trust in us as owners. Now is the time for us to put new leadership in place and to have a renewed sense of energy, a renewed sense of focus on different levels of accountability, and ultimately a clear direction of where we're taking the organization." And if I would have said amen at the last 10 words of that sentence, that is what I have been asking for, is just a goddamn direction for this franchise for the last year and a half, because it has just been aimless.
But is this exactly what the last poll ad said when they?
Yes, but not as competent. So I'm gonna scroll up here, and then I'm gonna get off this subject. But you know how, like, when you take on a new job or you have a new supervisor or whatever, you can just kind of feel, or at least like the first impression is, this person's an idiot or this person's incompetent. At least Tom, who has actually ran other aspects of the pull ad business, he actually is being completely removed from other pull ad business to run the Twins entirely, which can be one of two things. Either he did such a bad job at the other businesses that they put him into the Twins, or the Twins, despite what the pull ads are saying, still make money every year, and they're trying to stop the bleeding of the last 3 years to make it a profitable, well-ran organization. My hope is it's the latter. And at least he is acknowledging very clear, obvious faults that have not been addressed over the last year. And that's, I guess, all I can really hope. So what I do think is interesting, and then I'll shut up about this, but the whole removing Joe, is right at the start of the press conference. And it wasn't even a press conference. It was essentially Tom Pohlad in front of a table in the clubhouse. It was not a press conference. It was not nothing. It was just a table, microphones, and him talking. Somebody asked him, well, like, how long have you been planning to replace your brother? And they said a month ago is when it really decided. And then they was asked, well, like, how does Joe feel about this? And he said directly, Joe is not on board with this. Joe did not want to leave.
Hostile takeover.
Yeah. Like, they fired their little brother.
Because he was doing a bad job.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. And, like, that's where I'm kind of, like, hopeful that they acknowledge there was a problem. Like, you can't fire the owner. But the Twins just kind of did. Like,
yeah.
And, like, I'm not going to tell you that the ownership, as much as I rant about, the poll ads and ownership, the players and the organization is what is failing. But when you do not have a direction and it just seems like you don't know, you're just throwing stuff against the wall, and it felt like the ownership was actively harming the team.
I like your metaphor, Eric, of the intervention for the alcoholic.
Yes.
I think this is maybe a little bit more of, you got to take the keys away from Grandpa.
Yes.
Grandpa doesn't want to give up the keys, and he's been fighting it for years. And at some point, you need to come in and say, Grandpa, we are taking the keys, whether you like it or not. This is happening.
Yep.
And sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. But
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Eric, you've said this a couple times. So, what's the direction?
He will say, I think that Tony was trying to say is this year, do not expect a higher, like this year is a recoup year. We're not probably going to invest much past 120 million, 120 in the payroll. We'll see how this year goes, and we are open to reinvesting. If it doesn't go well this year, it will be a full scale, everyone's gone, building it from scratch.
Okay.
What also thought was, I didn't pull the quote, but when asked, like, was 2023 a mistake? Like, was cutting the payroll, like, midstream a mistake? And instead of giving an answer, he said yes. Essentially, they looked at the debt and freaked out and said something has to give. But what he said is if they would be able to do it over again, they would have ran the 160 payroll for the next year and see what happened. But what they really misjudge is how hard the fan base would take it. So, again, you acknowledge there was a problem. I appreciate that. We're not just hiding our head in the sand and pretending like everything is fine when everything is not fine. So,
Ty has to go to IKEA.
Yes, he does. So anyway, that's all I have. Unless anyone has any, like, I don't know, thoughts on the ownership. I do hope I don't have to talk about this again because it seems like more gossip. It's not that fun to talk about that. It is more like therapeutic for me because I can vent to someone, but
my final note on that, Eric, is all we can do is wish you the best. As much as I'd like the White Sox to beat you, I would prefer if you were in a good mental state, and hopefully this new leadership will give you that. No promises, but
well prepared if not. So,
but no, hopefully they deliver on what they've talked to here.
Okay. So with that, I think Ty has to take off here in a minute, so we won't get his Field of Dream thoughts, but maybe we'll edit that in later. But moving past the Twins, the Royals made. I mean, it's not the biggest pitching acquisition over the offseason, is it, in the division?
No. Got Matt Strahm, a guy who came up with the Royals. He is going to be kind of the replacement for Angel Zerpa, the lefty back end of the bullpen, giving a running mate to Estevez for next season. I think that it'll be a pretty decent move. He's been pretty good here and there over the years, and I like it. I like getting him back. Seems like a good enough pitcher. Didn't give up too much by giving up Jonathan Bolin. Cup of coffee over the last couple of years. He pitched about 40 innings. He's been replacement level ish. So yeah, if that is, a nice little move that the Royals made, I don't hate it. Didn't give up much. So yep, Strahm, like I said, came up with the Royals, and I don't have anything against him. He's probably an upgrade definitely an upgrade from Zerpa.
Not only is he an upgrade from Zerpa, he has the fourth highest WAR of all relievers in the last 3 years. Third, however, is Tyler Holton, which I don't think Lee would have maybe predicted. But
would not have predicted.
I mean, he has been very, very good for 3 years. He's 34. Will that keep up? You don't know. But I think like what is really encouraging for him is in 2025, his expected batting average and expected slug against was 90th percentile. Mm-hmm. Like very, very good reliever. Like someone I really do not want to face the Royals with Estevez in the 9th and Strahm in the 8th, and then whoever they want to come up with in the 7th inning role. Like that is a very strong back end of the bullpen. If you're looking for some red flags, he did have his K rate dropped 6%, but it's still league average. His walk rate went up by 40%, which is certainly not good. but whenever he is hitting the strike zone, it's effective. So I know you said this is certainly an upgrade over Zerpa. I think this is. I don't even think they're in the same stratosphere. Like they're
for sure.
Strahm
So
is very, very good.
Yeah, and the combination of Estevez, Urseg, and Strahm in the back end of that bullpen is going to be certainly something to be reckoned with, I think.
All the
But, go ahead, Lee.
all this bullpen move, like Tigers, Kenley Jansen and Finnegan, along with Vest. I mean, the Guardians always have a good bullpen. They added another guy that we're going to be talking about later. Now the Royals are doing that. I mean, it really seems like the Central's been like, let's just shore up our bullpens and hope offense can get 3 runs on.
Yeah,
I continue to be impressed with the moves the Royals make on the margins.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a situation where, I feel like in aggregate, trading Zerpa, you got stuff you needed, and then you got a better version of Zerpa out of it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes,
there's no opportunity cost in this. It's all benefit. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the Royals, I think you'd agree, still would look a lot better if they added one offensive firepower type of addition. But they've done a really good job dating back to the trade deadline. This is the same kind of vibe I had from them from the trade deadline. Really good job of just like marginally improving things that weren't good. And just another example of just them continuing to do that.
Sam, I think you're pulling up your screen here too, but I also I think with Strahm, or like even this seems like the Royals are setting a floor. Like this doesn't feel like they're done. They're going around the margins, like Dan said. It's you're getting a decent. You're not getting a gate. You've filled in your black hole in left field. You found a better replacement for Zerpa. Now it's the big splash. So now it's who they're talking to from there, which I think is smart. Like the Twins do that pretty consistently when they have money to spend. Is they're going to wait until January, see who of the top 10 free agents exist, and then pounce. And it feels like that.
Is it crazy to say that so far the Royals have had the best offseason?
I don't think it's close.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I'd agree with that.
I don't know. Like
they haven't signed like huge names, or anything like that. But they signed Michael Garcia to that big extension. Like they're improving. I think they're proving that they're trying to be a better team next year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had to think about it for a second. I like Kenley in Detroit, but I think the totality of what Kansas City's done is
right. I mean, Detroit, I think, has had a decent offseason, but they were kind of forced to it. Like Flaherty opted in, Torres opted in. Like, so it was kind of like, okay, well, you have to spend those $40 million now. So, Jens, it's fine. But yeah,
if they hadn't opted in, maybe they would have gone out and signed someone else by now. I'll get into it later. I don't think they're going to be signing anyone else later on, except for maybe another pitcher. But yeah, I mean, they've done good moves, but they really haven't done anything to really convince me that they're going to try and win it all next year.
Right. Okay. Back to Strahm.
So anyway, yeah, but Strahm, I like the signing. I like the pickup. Should be a good trade for the Royals right there. So, moving on to a Royals related piece of news, and this is where I'll go ahead and share my screen here. The Royals obviously have the same sports complex as the Chiefs. There was some news recently that the Chiefs want to or are closing in on a move to the Kansas side of Kansas City. This is apparently something that might be announced on Monday. And if the Chiefs move, that will make things a lot more of a, fluid situation for the Royals. So what I want to do real quick here is let's have a socioeconomic geographic study of the Kansas City area classes in session.
Oh, hold on, Sam. We're going to go viral if you keep this up.
Yeah. So this is the Asperia campus. Used to be the Sprint campus back in the day when Sprint got bought by T-Mobile, changed its name. So this is where the Chiefs want to move. this little area right here. So this is Kansas City. Here's Kansas. Here's Missouri. State line road right here. I used to live right here. This is where Sam used to live. This is the Grand Summit area. Not a very swanky area. This is called Loch Lloyd. This is where Patrick Mahomes lives.
Oh.
So as you can see, not a nice area, a very nice area. So as you move closer to the Kansas side along Highway 150 here, you will be getting into much swankier and swankier areas. Here is right next to the campus where the Chiefs want to move is an area that I liked to do some shopping here at Trader Joe's. As you can see, there is a Trader Joe's. There's an Apple store. There's also a Lululemon. There's a Crate and Barrel. There's a lot of stores where rich people like to spend money. So it's no surprise, should be no surprise to anyone, that the Chiefs want to move a stone's throw away from, where there's an Apple store, a Lululemon, an REI, all these very nice, swanky places where people with lots of money like to go.
Also conveniently located to a Walmart Supercenter.
Right next to a Walmart, too. However, I would suspect that maybe that Walmart might not be there anymore if the Chiefs move out to this area. So, I would be less upset. We can go ahead and stop sharing this now. I would be less upset about the Chiefs moving to Kansas than I would about the Royals moving to Kansas. Because with the Chiefs, it's, 9 to 12 games a year, depending on how the team does. It's, it's something I do every once in a while, go to Chiefs games, and it's not something that I think would end up being it's whatever. It is what it is. So I hope that if the Chiefs move, then the Royals stay. Will that be in a new ballpark? Probably. But if this happens, if this is something that's going to be announced on Monday, the Royals will have a lot of the questions, but it will start getting closer to being, a done deal.
Right.
Or it could just all be smoke.
Who knows? I don't know. This might have been like the first or second episode. And I remember you saying something like you're talking about the new stadium and where they can go. And I remember with bitterness in your heart, you said, and maybe they'll build it on the Kansas side of the border and they can finally start paying taxes.
Yeah. I mean,
you're getting your wish.
That's not a an opinion that's exclusive to me. Is that the Missouri residents have been the ones, the Jackson County residents have been the ones footing the bill for ever on this stuff. And Johnson County, Kansas is a top 100 county in America as far as wealth is concerned. And I mean, that's where most of the players live anyway. So again, why not let's have the Kansas residents foot the bill on this for once. So I wouldn't hate it, but I think it's it would certainly be a domino. And obviously all of the Jackson County people are like, oh no, they're nowhere close to getting a deal done with the state of Kansas. But tomorrow we might have some news on that front. So there we go.
I'm glad you said it on your own because I was going to ask which team you'd prefer to stay in Missouri versus move to Kansas.
I would like to see the Royals stay in Missouri just because it would be it's just
because then your home state team would be the Cardinals and you would rather jump off a building than have that happen.
Yeah. So, and is Missouri going to lose another NFL team in a decade? Like,
Oh, that took me a minute to figure out. I was like, wait a minute. Oh yeah, the Rams. That's right.
Yeah.
I
So
still have them mentally in St. Louis, which should tell you how often I watch the NFL. So
yeah. So we'll see, but I will be keeping tabs on that news, and we'll see if this actually ends up happening. And the other piece of this is, look, the lease ends in, I think, like 2031 for the Royals and the Chiefs. So we're getting close to crunch time where a decision needs to be made, and we need to, you know, get a shovel. If these teams are moving to a new stadium, a shovel needs to go in the ground pretty quick here, and a decision needs to be made even quicker. So
yeah, fingers crossed for you.
watch this space.
Nope, and we lost him. So Sam has some pretty good pause faces. So for anyone who's not watching on YouTube, he's looks very curious. So I think while he is still frozen, we can move on to the Guardians, who made a. I didn't put them in the thumbnail, but I probably should have because he's probably on the same caliber as Strahm. But the Guardians just signed Sean Anderson.
Sean Armstrong.
Armstrong, sorry. Wow.
Sean Armstrong. I'd rather have Strahm myself, but that's okay. Yeah, so Chris Antonetti has gone back for fourths at the relief pitcher buffet here, is what has happened. Is the only signings really the Guardians have made this offseason have been to continue to bolster and add depth to their bullpen. Armstrong, at least, is a little bit more established in terms of some of the additions they've made this year. A lot more established, to be fair. He's 35 years old. And has been up and down in his career. Overall, he has a 109 ERA plus over 11 seasons. So slightly above average pitcher, but a lot of that comes from um, in 2023 with Tampa Bay, he had a 138 ERA. In Texas last year, 231 over good innings, 52 innings, 74 innings, good, established seasons. But 2019, 574 ERA in 58 innings. 2024, 486 ERA in 66 innings. So it seems like the way he got to average was really, really good year, really, really bad year. Well, maybe not two reallys, but really, really good year, not so good year, really, really good year, not so good year. And that's how you end up with an average relief pitcher. We'll see what version we get of Armstrong here. This does remind me of moves we made in past years where I've mentioned this before. 2 years ago, they brought in Scott Barlow, veteran reliever capable of, pitching in a lot of different leverage points. Last year, they tried it with Paul Sewald. They gave Paul Sewald $7 million last year. They're giving Sean Armstrong this year 5.5. So got him at a reduced rate. Sewald had a longer track record of being good, although he hadn't been good recently. In this case, it's Armstrong was good last year, but has more of a track record of being up and down. He did have 9 saves for Texas last year. It's been a wish of mine that the Guardians would find a way to get a closer that isn't Cade Smith so that Cade Smith can go back into the fireman role that I think he's very, very good at. That could be the case here. I don't think it's, a certainty, but Armstrong could close if needed. He could pitch in the 8th inning, 7th inning. The one thing I will say is he is kind of a platoon guy. He was very good against righties, not as good against lefties. So he might be more of kind of a matchup righty, where you find a lane for him depending on the inning. But generally, it's a good move. It's, an established relief pitcher. I don't think it's a certainty he will be good, but, I think they've afforded themselves an opportunity, another arm that, can help them from April to September and beyond, potentially, hopefully.
I mean, he's had a lot of innings in the last 2 years. For a reliever, I understand this is a modern baseball thing, but 74 innings, I guarantee, is top 5 in baseball last year, 66 the year before, and he's 34 years old.
So there's 2 ways you could look at that, right? The one way you could look at that is, he's a workhorse. Like, you can pencil him in for 75 innings next year, and it'll be good. The other is, he's 35. It's a lot of years, especially recent years with high innings. When does the bottom drop for that? So again, I'm not certain this is a good move. I think they've done a good job of kind of putting themselves in a position where this plus some of the other moves they made, they're acquiring arms and think they're going to get enough of them that when you get to September, you're not dependent on three guys that you feel really good about. I think that's the goal here.
And I'm just looking at what he's. I mean, he did have a really good OPS plus against was 64. He did get stronger as the year went. So regardless of how many innings he got better as the season went on. So we'll see. You don't think he's going to close?
I think he could. I don't think it's a certainty. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, his platoon splits kind of make me kind of think he shouldn't. But at the same time, if he's got experience doing it and it can put Cade in a different role, uh, I think it's how effective he's going to be is going to be a determining factor, which is Captain Obvious stuff, but still is true. Um, on a more personal note, I do want to mention he actually was drafted by the Guardians, the Indians at the time, and just he put out a really nice note about how his first opportunity was in Cleveland, and he's happy to kind of pay it forward in return. So he did that this week, and it's appreciated. So
this is where you find out that's actually a passive aggressive comment, and he's going to gamble his first game, and then just be like, "If you Cleveland," like.
Don't even joke about that, Eric. I can't even do that right now.
It all sounds nice until he's actually a sleeper cell.
Should I move off of Armstrong to the other acquisition that the
The one
Guardians
that
made?
you're very, very excited for.
So the Guardians, talking about bullpen depth, all this stuff, they added one other relief pitcher this week. This one's left-handed. They hadn't gone left-handed yet this offseason. Uh, Justin Brule, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. I'm not
I'd
gonna.
say it.
We're gonna go with Brule. He was with Toronto last year. They acquired him in a trade for cash, which Sam, what does cash do?
Money can be used to buy goods and services.
Well, they purchased the goods, or in this case, the services of Justin Brewhill for 2026. He's got a career ERA of 4.72 and 83 and two-thirds innings over 5 seasons with the Dodgers, Rockies, Pirates, and Blue Jays. His FIP is a similar 4.46. Ergo, this guy's a journeyman. He's a depth guy. The Guardians currently have two lefties already in their bullpen in Eric Sabrowski and Tim Herron, both of whom have shown a lot of effectiveness at times. Herron's had a little bit of control issues. Sabrowski, I really like. But, one of those guys gets hurt. You need a third lefty arm. You've got a third lefty arm now. Um, I have to say, looking at his StatCast data, his sweeper feels like a strength. Uh, Year to year to year, its xWOBA is very good. He doesn't, he avoids contact, and the contact that happens is weak on that sweeper. But his fastball is very hittable. He doesn't throw very hard for the modern era, 90 miles an hour. Um, so they need to either improve upon that fastball or like develop a changeup or something to get him a second pitch. Like I said, he just feels like depth. Now they added this depth at a cost because at this point in time, the 40-man roster is full. And so, as you need to do, you needed to open up a spot. And so the Guardians did that. And at this point, Eric, if you may, can you bring up the slide that I put up in our group?
Yes.
Because there are three potential candidates that I'm going to be. These are it says it in the title, guys. These are underwhelming player comparisons, but I still want to do the comparison here. You've got three players. You've got their ages, their slash line for the last 2 years. That's 2 years combined. Their fielding runs for the last 2 years combined. Their WAR. These are all negative WAR players. That is not lost on me here. But that being said, only one of them has to be removed from the roster. I don't care. You can make the argument all three of these guys shouldn't be on the roster. That's not the exercise. Of these three, which would you least and which would you most want to offload from a roster so that you could put the lovely Justin Brule on your roster instead?
I would want to keep player B more. Like, player B is the player I would keep the most. Youngest, doesn't have the worst OPS, doesn't have the worst fielding, and has room to grow. I would want to get rid of player A the most. He's the oldest, worst WAR, bad fielding, not good hitting.
Any other thoughts from anybody?
So for anyone who's listening to this on audio, player A has a 70 OPS plus with a negative fielding runs, negative 1.8 WAR in 215 games. Player B has a 77 OPS plus, negative 3 runs, negative 4 in 136 games, and player C has a 65 OPS plus with negative 6 WAR or negative 6 runs, defensive runs, and then negative 1 WAR in 44 games. So just for anyone listening on audio, that might be helpful.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah,
the real answer is B. We all want the young player who might be able to turn it around.
So yeah, I agree. There's two on this. I did a whole lot of big diatribe about there's not a lot of good here. The two good things here, in my opinion, are player B is 24 years old and the slugging starts with a 4 instead of a 3. Those are the two things that here. Player B is Jhonkensy Noel, and Jhonkensy Noel was the player that was DFA'd so that Justin Brewhill could be put on the roster. By the way, everybody, it sounds like agreed player A should be the one being removed. Let's add the fact that the other two guys on there were making the league minimum. Player A is Nolan Jones, who's making $2 million, which not a lot of money, but still more than double what the other two individuals were making.
Is player C the Martinez?
That's Jonathan Rodriguez, who's played 44 major league games and is 26 years old. Obviously, I'm a little amped up about this. Where Noel was DFA'd, he had a horrible 2025. That's not lost on me. Just to reiterate, his slash line this year was 162, 183, 297. That's not good. I get that. The power potential is the upside here. The Guardians need power. They don't have power. You pitched the guy off the roster that has the most power of those guys. If he hits homers, Noel is a useful player on any roster, in my opinion. But he didn't last year, and I get that. Rodriguez and Jones were better options too. I don't know why Jones is on this roster. I don't know why they tendered him a contract at this point. Especially when you have Valera and DeLauder as well, who can play the outfield next year. And it seems like, again, the Guardians have not made any maneuver towards any outfielder, position player signing whatsoever. It sure seems like those guys are going to be on the roster even to start the season. So, and there's maybe I'm a little bit because of the nostalgia of the really good year Noel had, big home run hit in the playoffs, all that stuff. But setting that all aside, the one thing that sticks out from those three players is the power and the age of Noel. And yet the decision was made to have him be the individual that was taken off the roster. That happened 4 days ago. The way the DFA rules work is the teams have 7 days to claim him, so we don't know if he's been claimed yet. We'll know. Ironically, I think we'll know on Christmas Eve. So we're going to know if we have a big Christmas or regular size Christmas or no Christmas at all. So more to come on that. Probably fill that in, just kind of touch on it next week to close that book or whenever we record next. But yeah,
I predict he gets picked up.
I forgot the biggest point here, guys. So when Armstrong was signed, once again, the Guardians needed to empty a roster spot. And guess who got DFA'd so that roster spot could be filled? Justin Brewell. So now I do think the logic with that was Brewell had already passed through waivers once. There was very little risk that now if I was the White Sox or Twins and I just wanted to troll people and I would go ahead and I'd claim Brewell now and just.
I'm claiming both of them just to take that claim.
But I do think he'll pass through, and I do get that. It's just it looks really weird that they would do that in the first place. I think I'm done now. Sam, you had a thought.
I think he's getting picked up.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if he wasn't picked up. He's a young guy with huge power potential. I mean, he just needs, I think we talked about it a few months ago. He just needs one little change to his swing, and he can hit so much better.
Yeah. And he's a guy, if he can hit 30 to 40 home runs and throw out 15 guys in the outfield.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 29 MLB teams that are going to be wanting that on their team. So
I'm not going to go as far as say I will be shocked if he doesn't get picked up, because I do think like there are holes in a swing major league teams are going to be aware of that we are going to be oblivious to. And if he just has that big gaping hole in the zone that they don't think that can be, like, they have metrics where it's almost like there's a point of no return and there's no hope for this player. If he's in that category, other major league teams are going to know that as well. But I don't see why you wouldn't claim him and take a flyer.
To that point, I don't know that there's 29 teams that would be all about that. But if you're Chicago White Sox, Minnesota, Colorado, Pittsburgh, Miami,
Yes.
why not? It's like, why
in
not?
Colorado, I want to see him hit 550-foot home runs.
He might hit a ball to the moon in Colorado.
Yes.
Like,
I mean, like the Twins would love to have. I say they would love to have because they won't sign it, but a young right-handed power hitting outfielder. That's what he is. Like, this seems like such a no-brainer. Of like, what this. I don't get why they dropped him. What also like scares me is this is a different era and a different position completely. But when the Twins had Liam Hendricks for 50 innings and he was like 24, got his brains beat in, and then they DFA'd him, he got claimed by the A's. No, I think he got claimed by the Royals, and then he went to the A's, and then was an all-star caliber closer for like 5 years. This feels like, I don't think Noel is likely to ever be an all-star, but he certainly isn't old enough to prove he's not an all-star yet. I don't know.
Agreed.
Just way too early to DFA. Because I don't even think he's out of options yet, is he?
he is, I believe. Yes, Rodriguez was the only one of the three that had an option left. So he was put on the 40 man pretty early to avoid Rule 5 kind of thing. So he was out of options, but so is why is Nolan Jones on this roster?
Because they're probably going to try to trade him and save the $2 million rather than be on the hook for the $2 million. But you did that to yourself. Like you tendered him a contract. You could have been broke free. But I'm going to assume that's the logic.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
I'll eat my words if Nolan Jones hits 25 home runs and plays a sterling right field this year. But what are the odds of that at this point?
And you'll just be heartbroken.
I don't think Class A is taking those odds at this point. So, good grief. I'm not having a fun winter. I do like some of the relief pitching stuff they've done. I get the logic in that. I mentioned that last week, but I feel more disappointed in this year so far than last year when they traded a bunch of guys off the team, and it's frustrating. Thank you for. This is the second week I've ended with thank you for letting me go off, but thank you.
Any other thoughts on Noel, or I guess the Tigers did something?
No, it's Lee. Do you have what? Apparently, according to what the Twins and the White Sox have done, you're allowed to sign position players at this time of year. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. I'm not quite sure why some teams can sign position players and other teams can't. But it's really interesting, and I hope the Tigers learn how to sign position players because that could be really helpful. But maybe they just don't. Maybe they're just not allowed to.
Maybe it's a competitive balance thing. If you won more than 85 games and you're in this division, you can't sign a position player. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sorry.
No, you're not. That was a pretty sly little backhanded compliment there. You can
usually I do that to Lee.
Like
usually I do the we won the division. I wanted to do something that included Lee this time because I felt bad. So there we go.
This is why everyone hates Cleveland, by the way. This exact reason. All right, so Lee, they officially signed who was it?
Kyle Finnegan.
Kyle Finnegan, and to do
I don't
so,
know why that. Yeah.
I think this might be one of your more favorite players. You had a soft spot.
I got a bit of a soft spot, but I'm not as high on him as the rest of the fan base seems to be. I'm just surprised that they DFA'd him. So the deal for
he is Justin Henry Malloy, by the way. We hadn't said that name, so
Justin Henry Malloy. I have a soft spot for him. He's really good at getting on base, but that's kind of it. He has power potential, but he doesn't hit. He just walks. That's like the only thing, right? And I don't know. I was surprised that they DFA'd him because I was expecting them to DFA another reliever like Bo Brisky. I thought they could waive him. I know they signed him to like what 900,000 or whatever for an arbitration, but I'm a little surprised that we waived a position player. But the fan base seems to really love him, and I'm not really that high on him. But he's 25. He's played in the majors for 123 games. I mean, he's had some really big moments for us, but he just doesn't hit enough. He's got a career OPS of 80, OPS plus of 85. He walks a lot, but that's kind of it. He doesn't have good outfield. How much space do we have for guys who don't hit and don't play on the outfield and could just DH or play first base? Yeah. Here's the stats to John Kenzie Noel. He's slightly better hitter than John Kenzie Noel without the power. Slightly better at batting average. It gets on base a lot more.
And I did bring this up because I thought it would be kind of funny, but the same arguments we just made about Noel being DFA'd, you could say the same thing. Copy and paste for Malloy. A little bit older, a little bit worse. Fine. I mean, I don't think he's going to necessarily burn you for not being in the organization anymore. That's assuming he clears waivers, but
fine. I'm assuming someone will pick him up because, I mean, he gets on base a lot, There's potential there. But like I said, he's not a good outfielder defensively. I don't know. He's just never really kind of put it together. But he also has only played 123 games. So, who knows?
I'm going to go back to this well again, and we'll see if it's as good as the second time. Who plays more Major League Baseball games next year? John Kenzie Noel or Justin Henry Malloy?
Noel, because I think the Rockies will pick him up and play him for no reason.
Yeah.
And that's assuming Malloy isn't in the other corner.
Right. I think it's Noel too, and I think it's that power potential. We got to find out if this guy can hit 30 home runs or not, kind of thing. I think
it's Noel because at least he can play outfield. Somewhat decently.
Also true.
Malloy has been, bouncing between first base and a corner outfield spot, and mostly just DHs. So, yeah, the fan base for some reason really loves this guy. I'm not that high on him. I don't see it, I guess.
Because fan bases are irrational about prospects, especially the ones that they believe are sleeper picks. It's almost like you're insulting their mother when you cut them, or they realize they're a fringe 26-man person.
The reaction was oh, they never gave him a chance, and now I'm like, guys, he wasn't hitting. He was just walking.
Well, also, who's he going to take at bats away from? He's not taking it from Carpenter or Green or Meadows,
or even Perez. No, it is. We have better players who can play defense. Okay, Meadows has not been hitting well last season, right? But he plays fantastic defense. He's got some upside, But there's just not space on the roster for Malloy. There's space on the roster for Malloy on a team like the Marlins or the Rockies or the White Sox. But on a team that's trying to win, sometimes guys like this are just going to get cut.
Also, I do appreciate that the muscle memory, you haven't included the Twins. You say the White Sox is the garbage example instead of the Twins. And I appreciate that so far. I don't know if that'll be the case next September, but I'll take it while I can.
Yeah. He has some good moments for us the past few years. Also, side note, he has 9 home runs in his career. I have seen 2 of them in person. So
you had the good luck?
Yeah, apparently so.
His OPS with Lee in the stands is over 1,000. So just go to more games. You're killing this man's career.
True.
Okay. So I think that's it for the baseball moves. So back before we thought this was going to be one of the quicker episodes, we wanted to watch. We wanted a little shot of nostalgia. And as Dan pointed out, like a jerk at the before we start record, he said there are 2 younger people that have watched Field of Dreams for the first time. And then as I'm instantly aging in my chair when he said that, it's a decent point. So we watched Field of Dreams this week. I don't know if we're probably done with the baseball talk. So for those who don't want to listen about a baseball movie from the 80s, maybe this is the time to click off. But for not watching this movie in well past a decade, and for someone who was fully expecting to have nostalgia carry the day on how good this movie was, it unsurprisingly, Field of Dreams, pretty good movie. So what do you guys think, Lee?
There's a reason to stick around.
As the aforementioned young person, the young whippersnapper, what did you think?
I thought it was a good movie. It was I liked it. It gives that like nostalgic air, even though I'd never watched it before. And
Americana.
Like, yes, I think that's the right word for it. I think there's a reason it's stuck around in the cultural zeitgeist as it is, and like the fact that MLB has made like a Field of Dreams game be a thing. There's a reason for that. It's because this movie is a good movie. I really liked it. I like the end monologue by James Earl Jones, which first of all, I was not expecting James Earl Jones to be in this movie, but I was like, hey, look at that. Yeah, I really like the end monologue by him. Also, okay, so going into this, the synopsis of this movie that I knew was guy builds baseball field in nowhere, Iowa, and old baseball players come back as ghosts or whatever. Mm-hmm. 20 minutes in, when he builds the field and Shoeless Joe Jackson shows up, I'm like, okay, so what's the rest of the movie about?
Right. See, I wanted to ask that too, because that was, you watch a movie today, like if they make Field of Dreams today, they're going to stretch out the building of the field until like the 45th minute of the movie. Where like this was like,
that would be
here's what we're doing, here's the premise, and bam, here's the field. Now what?
The pacing of movies is very different from 89 to what it is today. Yes, like the movie would end with the field being completed. I agree with that idea.
And
honestly,
would come out.
The answer to that is the first season of the 10 episode or 8 episode Netflix show was the building of the field. Then the second season is we're gonna go to Boston. Like that's how it, and you'd have to wait 18 months at minimum between those 2 seasons. But to me, that's the modern version. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
What I thought was also just going into the first 20 minutes. Does anyone? I don't know if you guys spent a lot of time on farms. Like I grew up in South Dakota, and I grew up in the country, rural. The idea, well, one, Kevin Costner does not look like a very convincing farmer to me, but that's beside the point. He's to start the movie, he is walking his cornfield with like a shovel, and every like 10 feet or so he's like sticking the shovel in the ground, and in fact I was like, what the F? And also it's like 50 acres of corn. It's like, what the F are you doing? Like, what is the purpose? I understand the script said you had to stand in the field so you could hear the voice, but what is the actual function of you with your singular shovel?
You're right. So, and obviously you're right. You've spent a million times more time on a farm than I have. I've seen this movie way too many times. My dad loves it. I've watched it with him a bunch. We've watched the special features and all that to it. They acknowledge in the like commentary, we know that like there's nothing you do with corn. You plant it, you let it grow, you harvest it. But like they needed to have him out in the corn so he could hear the voice. So he's out there just putzing around with his shovel, digging stuff up, acting like he's doing something. But yeah.
Also, I think
I just got excited because I knew, like, yeah, he's out there for no reason.
I think corn. I think this movie is supposed to take place in summer. Corn should not be that tall at that time of year.
Not at all.
I know that. My dad always said, because he grew up in rural Michigan, he said, corn should be knee-high at 4th of July.
Yeah, son of a bitch. That is the most... That's not true. Like, stop. Everyone, if you're listening to this, that's not a true statement. Stop saying it. I'm not even saying I was a farm kid. I was surrounded by farms growing up, but no, it's not true.
Well, this was also my first time watching this movie.
Was it really?
Yes, I had never seen it the whole way through. I had seen it on a day in school where we were just like killing time, and the teacher put on a movie. So I've seen the first like Lee Summit West class period.
Yeah, let me guess. It was a history teacher before spring or Christmas break.
I'm not. I don't remember what the specific situation was, but I think one of the things that I really could detect when I was watching this movie was that it is a movie that is about a generation realizing they are getting older. And it is about a generation wanting to, we talked about the nostalgic nature of watching this movie. Well, the characters in the movie want to be nostalgic too.
Right.
Because it's about a generation that thought the 60s were going to last forever. And now you're in the late 80s and you have a mortgage and a child and a cornfield that you need to take care of. And you want to reconnect with your dead father. So what do you do except for escape to the nostalgic past of baseball?
Mm-hmm.
And baseball is a game that's kind of always been about the past. And so, yeah, sure, you go on a vaguely magical adventure and you get to resurrect your dead father. So I think you can really detect a sort of desire to go back to the good old days in this movie. And I think that every generation gets older. Yeah. And every generation has a movie about getting older. And I think for the generation that's being represented in this movie, it's that. But I think it's also kind of evergreen in the way that it sort of portrays getting older.
I think one of my favorite lines, and this isn't even necessarily about baseball. When they're in like the lecture hall, they're at the PTA meeting, and they're talking about like the band book they're trying to introduce Terrence Mann like into the script. And this woman is going off about how it's smut, it's pornography, this is the worst thing. And then Kevin Costner's wife stands up and she said, like, in the 60s, Terrence Mann, he was like a voice for peace and all of this and making this big grand thing. And the woman who was saying it was pornography and all of that said something like, I was also there in the 60s. And the Kevin Costner's wife brings back, no, I think you had 250s and then skipped to the 70s. And I love that line. I'm going to steal that. That is such a good line.
Also, admittly, my first reaction on the band books, I'm like, oh god damn it, we're still doing. I'm like, yep, time never changes. It's 30 years later, and we're still doing that shit.
It's funny because then out in the hallway, the wife says, "I just stopped the spread of neo-fascism in America." I'm like,
looks at the day.
Oh, my sweet summer child.
I was about to say, surprisingly topical, right? Wasn't expecting that either this morning when I watched it.
Also, I know it's I know this took place in '89, and like, I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's only funny to me because I'm someone who was born 10 years after the fall of the Soviet Union. But just and it's communist is always hilarious to me. It's anything of like going back to the time.
He's probably a communist too.
Yeah, it's from anything that like looks back at the period of the 50s to the 90s, and there's a character who inevitably goes, "It's the communists." Hilarious. I love it. 10 out of 10. It's very funny.
Well, she also says in her big diatribe, she says something like that, how he promotes the mongrelization of the races.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, like I forgot, like it hasn't been that long since that was an issue. Like that's not that far in the past. And it's amazing to go back to these movies and kind of look at what the issues of the day were. I find that especially prevalent with like you go back and watch The West Wing, and it's so funny to think about like these are what people were having. The issues were just so different back then. But yeah, it's definitely a movie that's it's a time capsule for sure in more ways than one. And I think one of the things that I mentioned earlier when before we hit record is that you kind of have to be on board with the premise of this movie, and it's a movie that doesn't really explain what's going on very well when it starts, and when it kind of goes into some more of the supernatural elements. There isn't they never slow the movie down and say, all right,
I have
Ray's
a question
farm
about
is
that
built on an
specifically.
ancient Indian burial ground that you know what I mean.
I know for me, if the first time or one of the first times I watched this, if I wouldn't have known the difference because I'm just not that into film in the history of movies. But did either of you guys get tripped up when Ray accidentally walks into 1972 or whatever? Like the giveaway there is that The Godfather is showing, and it's one of the 10 best movies of the year. I didn't know enough. I knew it wasn't made in 1989, but that wasn't enough for me when I was a
Yeah.
teenager or whatever to
Mhm.
know. Oh, he just walked back into 1972. But then they wipe away the thing, and he sees the
Right.
license.
I think that
For
was
me, just like The Godfather is just like it's an old movie.
right.
It's like
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's where I'm
back
at.
when
Where
my
is that
dad
too?
was a teenager or whatever. Okay, 1972 was the year he was,
I think
But
what they
like,
were trying to do was you were trying like I think they were intentionally trying to confuse the audience. Like they wanted the vibe of something's off here. Like something
Yeah.
has changed. And
Mhm.
like they gave you the little pieces because they showed The Godfather, and then I think Kevin Costner even said something like this year, like something. And then
Mhm.
he's like
Yeah.
frantically looking around, and then the reveal is when he goes to the cut the license plate and wipes away the expiration tag. I think that's the giveaway.
Yeah. And there's a couple things where like sort of there's a definite like shift in the music, and like the feel of that
Yeah.
scene is very different from the rest of the movie, just as far as like the way they use lighting, the way they use sort of like different angles. Like it's kind of, you can tell like, oh, there's something off here. I don't think you don't have to specifically understand what year The Godfather came out. I think there's definitely some clues there. And I think especially with that scene where he walks into 1972, I mentioned there's a lot of like cinema sins moments in this movie where you can, hit the ding bell sound and be like, oh, well, that doesn't make sense. And you kind of have to be on board with the premise of this movie. If you're not on board, you're not going to have a very good time watching it.
Yep.
And one of the things, it's like,
But
I wrote a note on my phone where I said, so only Ray can hear the voice, but everyone can see the ball players.
the one thing I didn't get is like, why can only some people see the ball players? I was like, what? Does he just not?
Because they don't believe,
Yes,
Lee. They have to believe.
Like, I guess it's Rise of the Guardians, where you have to believe in order to see them, and I'm like,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's the point is if you don't if you're not in on kind of the premise, then you're Mark and you can't see the players in the first place, and this movie isn't for you. Like,
Yeah.
to me, that's fine. I think that's actually kind of, I don't know if it was intentional, but if it was, that's an interesting choice to make.
Yeah.
I mean, it is weird. Would you consider this a sci-fi movie?
Magical
it's a
realism.
fantasy movie. Yeah.
No, I'd say more fantasy or almost
Fantasy. Okay, that's fair. Maybe.
Do we care that the rules like of this mysticism kind of change and aren't consistent? Like, I listened to some stuff. I got very into this week. I took notes. I'm sorry. I was very excited for this once we decided to do this. But I was listening to something they mentioned, like Moonlight Graham. He can leave the ballpark. We know he can leave, like the younger version of him. He can leave. We know because he gets picked up on the side of the road
Yep.
somewhere between Minnesota and Iowa. He isn't tethered to the ball field. But then at the end, in order to leave the in order to save Karen, he has to leave the ball field. He's suddenly old again. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like he could be young outside the ballpark to get there, but now like stuff like that. Again, I think it just kind of falls in Sam's bucket of you have to just go along with it in order to, and I
Yeah.
do. It doesn't ruin the movie for me, but it is worth acknowledging
It's
that like some of these rules
Yeah.
don't make sense.
It's
kind
It's
of
like the voice.
it's
too.
a soft magic, right?
Yeah.
It's a sort of it's like I said, it's magical realism where it's meant to be taking place in the real world, but there's a magical element that's not really super concrete. You just got to roll with the punches.
Yeah. Did
and
anyone?
the
So just kind of. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lee.
no, just the part that confused me was like, oh, Terrence Mann can walk into the cornfield to join the other players. And I'm like, where is he? Is he dying? Is he going to heaven? What is happening?
Yes, I
Yeah.
think that's what they were saying because I think that was like the whole eases pain thing. And I wanted to talk about Terrence Mann, so this can be a good segue into it. But the way I took it is he was invited at the end of the movie where Kevin Costner's character wasn't invited. So yes, I think they were killing Terrence Mann. And then as far as like the doctor going across the field, like you're invited, but once you leave, you're out forever. Is kind of how I took that.
So is his body in the cornfield? I don't.
So I think the Terrence Mann part is very interesting because there's theories on the internet that he was dead the whole time, which I don't think is true because he ends up missing. His dad wonders where he is, like that.
He's in
But
the, yeah,
like the lady journalist, the older woman who's the journalist, when they go try to find out more about Moonlight Graham, she can see him. I like the little thing where he goes, "You're a good writer," and she goes, "So are you." Like she recognized him but didn't want to make a fuss, and like I
Mhm.
thought that was cool. This is a brief aside, but yeah, I think he had to give up writing because of his world got out of control. He felt like he was doing the right things, but like it was just chaos. I don't think he's dead. I think this was his opportunity to get back to writing, and I don't know, maybe he is dead because he's able to do it in heaven. And I don't know if the pages end up on Ray's porch or something, or I don't know exactly, but I think this is just about
See,
his story of
I
wanting to get back. That's his thing. That's his base.
I
Like
took
Graham
it
had baseball. I think he wanted to get back to writing and just
I
couldn't.
took it as like this was his transition into dying. Like the reason Kevin Costner starts getting the voice is a couple things. He needs to reconnect with his dad. Spoiler for the last little bit if that hasn't happened, but and then he's supposed to find Terrence Mann. Which, by the way, connecting that dot is a bit of a stretch for me, but that's fine. To go from a PTA meeting to now, oh, I need to find Terrence Mann, who's impossible to
I know,
find
find
in
him and talk to
Boston.
him and bring him to my baseball
But
field.
anyway, I took it as like Terrence Mann was probably like in the process of dying, and then Kevin Costner is responsible for easing his pain and transitioning him into the afterlife. Kind of like the Doc Graham thing. Doc Graham has been dead for a while, but you're inviting him to like his spirit can be like young for a little bit before he passes on in peace. Like that's how I took it.
I mean, just thinking about like the themes of the movie, it's about moving on from the past, basically. So I think that makes sense in terms of like Kevin Costner moving on from unresolved issues with his father, Moonlight Graham moving on from never getting to play baseball again, Terrence Mann
Shoeless
moving
Joe.
on from his writing career. I think it's
Shoeless Joe, like his ghost being able to like continue to play for the love
yeah.
again and that type of stuff. Yeah, I don't think that's far off.
So as I mentioned up front, I've seen this movie double-digit times. Although I hadn't seen it probably in 6 or 7 years is my guess. It's been a while. Um, it hit me differently. I'm basically Ray's age. I'm maybe half a year younger. He's 36. I'm 35. This movie hit me differently than it did any other time I watched it. One, I feel like a lot of the kind of the ethos in the movie is still salient. It's still a lot of its heart, a lot of what it's trying to convey still hits 40 years later almost. Additionally, I just I have a really good relationship with my dad. He's still, he's probably watching this honestly. But so that part so much, I mean, it's important, but to me, it's more about kind of the other stuff and Terrence Mann's story, Moonlight Graham's story, to me, I just some of that stuff hit differently for me, as well as, um, you know, I don't know what I'm trying to convey. The kind of just like the heart of the movie, what it's about in terms of uh, the message, I
Right.
guess.
I think the reason it's stuck around for so long is because it's so you can still the main theme of it is still so applicable today. Like so Kevin Costner grew up on stories from his father about the 19 from the 1910s 1920s White Sox. We all like I think we could say it's all about previous generations telling stories about what they grew up with, right? Like for me it was my dad and the 84 Tigers. It's all about the generations before us who tell the stories of the teams they watched before, and then we tell the stories of the teams that we watched, and that sort of thing. I hope that makes sense.
I think there is kind of a timeless element to it because, like, sure, this is a movie from the past, but it's also telling a story about the past that was pretty far. Shoeless Joe was, 50 years, 60 years
Yeah.
prior to this movie being made. And I think one of the things is that, you can watch it through that lens of just, sort of celebrating the past. And Shoeless Joe's someone who, I don't know, we probably wouldn't have heard of if it weren't for the element of the 1919 Black Sox scandal. I think it's a timeless story for sure, as maybe Class A will be someday.
Um,
I will
I
also put. Go ahead, Dan.
I've kind of found more of my point. I apologize. I was rambling there and I wasn't really getting anywhere. I had written a couple things down. Matter of perspective, life perspective was one of the themes that I was kind of thinking of here. You don't realize the significant moments in your life when they happen. Ray doesn't realize when he says something awful to his dad at 17 and then leaves home and never comes back that that's like the last conversation he's going to have with his dad. Um, Moonlight Graham, decides to give up on baseball because he just doesn't think it's going to work out for him. And he said, by the way, I don't know, again, I don't know how much you guys are into like film history or whatever. Burt Lancaster as Moonlight Graham. From what I understand, Burt Lancaster is like one of the old classic Hollywood, like big time actors.
Yeah.
This was his last role. Um, Kills it, by the way. Two scenes. He's great in both of
Yeah, he's
them.
very memorable.
But, something along the lines of, if I had only been a doctor for 5 minutes, that would be a tragedy.
Yes, I
Like,
love that line.
that's so good. He stuff like that matter of perspective to me. Like things I worked a night shift job for a year and a half at Target. And at the time I was frustrated with that because I had just got out of college and I was trying to find a full-time job. Well, the only reason I met my wife was because I was free on a Wednesday at noon because I was working a night shift job. Stuff like that. You never know in life what thing is going to happen that leads to something that leads to something and so on. The other one was self-sacrifice. This is another big Moonlight Graham one. That whole thing, of kind of giving up on baseball, stopping his dream in order to kind of help the greater good. There's a lot of self-sacrifice in this movie. Ray obviously kind of putting himself and his family in financial turmoil to help all these people. Um, the end scene where he kind of gets angry and asks what's in it for me kind of bothers me a little bit, to be honest, because this
Feels like
whole
it
time
takes
he's been
away
a
from
good
the rest of the
soldier.
movie.
Yeah, it didn't ruin it for me, but that watching it this time, I'm like, I don't really like that.
See, can I
Yeah,
can I just offer a differing opinion on that? Because I thought that made that much more realistic. Because he had been
mhm,
blindly following these voices in his head, literally across the country
that's
and
fair.
back, and he had to have thought, "What is the payoff?
Yeah.
Like, what am I like? Why did you pick me if you're just is it for Terrence Mann to go in the cornfield and never to be seen again?" And then the payoff is right after that.
Yeah, I
Man is
think
enough.
I think from a characterization standpoint, you have to like the character has to expect a reward.
Right.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing this. So I
Yeah,
think it is logical that at the end of the movie, Kevin Costner would expect some type of reward for what he's done. He gets it with his father and with the comically large line of cars who have somehow heard about this.
They've been summoned.
The people from all over the country are lining up to come to this baseball field. There's been no reporting. There's been no press on this. There's been no nothing.
They're going to want to take a vacation. They're going to go to Iowa City, and it's going to be really boring. That's
and the entire population of Iowa City just lines out this random farmhouse.
I was
20
curious.
minutes after they talk about it.
$20 and with inflation in 2025, $57 is what it would. Yeah.
If someone said you can walk around my farm if you give me $57, I'd be like, all right, I'm just gonna go down to the McDonald's.
Honestly, if I could go pay $57 to go to a farm and watch Bob Feller play, I'm doing that every single time. Like
that's fair.
What I think is funny, this is gonna kill the spirit of the movie, but the next morning, that was very clear that the bank was foreclosing on that house the next morning.
Yeah.
Unless he had enough to pay off that mortgage by that incredibly long list of cars, like he still lost that house. And someone else is making money.
He's gonna pull some strings, it'll be fine.
That's what I was gonna say. Is that the brother, I assume the implication is that the brother's gonna pull some type of string to make the house not be foreclosed on.
By the way, why is the first baseman of the Minnesota Twins so upset about this farm?
I was going to say that, yes. The romantic interest in Little Big League is the main villain. Well, not the main villain. The character representing the main villain in this movie. Yep, I caught that.
Another really good baseball movie, in my opinion. Just to end on the self-sacrifice thing, Annie, Ray's wife, I hope that she sacrifices a lot in this. I hope she gets some benefit out of that in the long run. I don't know what kind of karmic thing is going to happen to her, but she goes along with a lot of crap in this. And that's her character, it seems like. I think the other part of the reason for the school board meeting is to just kind of explain about her and how much of
give her some character.
This is going to come off as pejorative, and I don't mean it that way, but how much of a hippie she is and how kind of open-minded she is, like to explain why she's okay with this. And then, Terrence Mann self-sacrificed, just his opening part of his life, writing and doing all these things. And I think the combination of Moonlight being so grateful and appreciative of what he was able to do with his life, and then Mann kind of being bitter and upset because things didn't kind of work out the way he had hoped, in kind of a greater way, is really interesting.
Yeah.
I got two small minor points. I think just from a movie film perspective, I think it would have been nice to see what Mark was seeing this whole time, just for just a brief glimpse, so we know what he's seeing. I don't know. I think that would have been interesting. And two, I really like this one random line where all the ghosts are playing baseball, and one of the batters runs to first and beats it out, and the pitcher goes, "If you run like that, against Detroit, I would have won 20 games." And the other guy goes, "Give it up. It's been 68 years."
That's not the best part. I love that scene. It's when their first baseman and pitcher are griping with one another, and they go, "Muscle bound jerk." And he goes, "Yeah, at least I got muscles." He goes, "No, at most you got muscles." Meaning you don't have a brain. I love that. I'm sorry, guys. I love this movie.
You didn't like when Moonlight winks at the pitcher and he instantly just throws at his head, and then the umpire was like, "You got any advice?" "I don't know, duck. Like, what do you?"
One thing I wanted to shout out is a couple really good performances by actors who have passed away recently, which I think adds a little bit to the movie, with the knowledge that Ray Liotta and James Earl Jones are now have passed away in the last handful of years. I really thought those two really turned in pretty good performances in this movie, and James Earl Jones, just listening to his voice is, I mean, come on, dude. When he's in the cornfield at the end and he just says the word baseball. It's like you can't beat that.
Right. I also like this is
really,
just a small part. Like obviously he was like an Oscar winner and all of that, but like when he's he's like toying with going in the cornfield. He's like making a joke on it, and he just gives like this very hearty belly, like believable belly laugh. And I'm thinking like, how are you actually like? That's a realistic belly laugh. You're just looking at corn. Like, what are you actually thinking about? Or like, what did you channel to actually have that reaction? Because I just that was a random piece of like, oh, he is a pretty good actor. That James Earl Jones.
There's also some good little kind of comedic moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Sam just broke up. So, Dan, why don't you go your point?
I was just gonna agree with him. Let me see if I can find some stuff. Like I said, I jotted some stuff down that what's a crop to me? I'm very easily amused. I think that's funny when they're early on. Why would you plow into your major crop? Well,
It's a crop.
Mark, I know more about farming than you think I do. Why would you do that? What's a crop? Like I think that was funny.
That was a good line.
Yeah. I don't know. I had other ones too. Like the Hortai Cobb
Yeah.
wanted to play and couldn't. They wouldn't let him because they didn't
No.
like him.
And like the line was like so cold. Like we didn't even like him when he was alive, so we won't let him
We
play.
didn't invite him.
Is he still stuck in ghost limbo and can't move on to because
Well,
they
He has
wouldn't let him
Coca-Cola
play?
money. He's fine.
When you really think about that, that's just terrible that that would be the case.
So, all right, we are as much as we could probably go on for this for like another half hour. It's been a half hour of straight movie talk, and we're over the 2 hour mark. So, unless anybody has some, Lee, do you have any closing thoughts? Would you watch it again? Would you recommend it? Was it overrated, adequately rated, all of that?
I would recommend it, and I would watch it again. I don't really rewatch movies, but I'd watch it. This is not a movie that'd be like, oh, I don't want to watch that. This is a movie that I would watch again. I liked it.
Okay, and then Sam is being brought back up here. All right, Sam, I think we're moving on to final points, but what did you think watching it the first time through? Good movie, recommended, overrated, underrated?
If you're a baseball fan and you are someone who enjoys the history of baseball and wants to watch one of the classics and you've never seen it, I would absolutely recommend this movie. Good performances, a very sort of simple story, and a movie that is not going to be easy watch, you know.
Yeah.
And I think you'll definitely have a good time watching this movie if you haven't seen it. Hour 40. So remember when that was the standard for movies?
I didn't know. What is hour 40?
That's the length of the movie.
Oh, okay.
It's an hour and 40 minutes instead of 2 hours and 25.
Yeah, they blew past that. All right.
Yeah.
Dan,
So-
any your 15th time watching it?
Glowing review. I will say two things. One, I thought of one other thing that was funny from it. When the ball players are giving Ray a hard time because it's dinner time.
Yeah.
Ray, dinner, Ray. It is silly at points, but great movie. Like I said, I've seen it a million times. I'm really glad I watched it again, quite frankly. Like I said, it had been a few years and it hit me a little bit differently than I picked up on some things I maybe wouldn't have had the perspective of, in the past. And other than that, I mean, is there a bad performance in this movie from any actor in it? I think they're all really good. Maybe I'm being ridiculous, but I feel like even like the little girl, daughter is really good in this.
She was
It's-
decent for a kid actor.
I was kind of
Yeah.
not expecting to enjoy it as much again as I did. So
The only gripe I have about it has nothing to do with with the actress, the character. I watched it with subtitles, and they took the spelling of Karen from the book. Karen is spelled Carin.
oh, by the way, one of the few instances where a movie is better than the book. I've read this book. It's odd, even odder than the movie, to
Yeah.
be quite frank. It's fine, but they cut out a lot of stuff that wasn't necessary and kind of streamlined the story and made it very good. So if you're choosing
Honestly,
between
I
one or the other,
know
watch the movie. It's one of the few times where the movie's better than the book.
There's a lot of movies that are based on books that you would never know it in a million years, and I feel like this is one of those movies. Because, like, did you know that Die Hard is based on a book?
Oh,
No,
I didn't.
did not
But
know that.
Mrs. Doubtfire is also based on a
one I
book.
did. But
So yeah, it's one of those things where it's like some random book you've never heard of has been adapted into a movie.
so anyway, I did have an issue with the subtitles. That I understand. I did that to myself, but it's care N, not care in. But
Yeah, why did they do? I also watched it with subtitles. Like,
yeah, it was
what?
weird. It was weird every time I saw it. It caught my eye weird. So I think with that, the moral of the story is, before we sign off here, is if you are hearing voices in your head, follow them blindly. See you later, everyone.
Mm-hmm.